Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. We're down here at Disney Springs. Oh man, the sun is setting. It's always a party atmosphere. We're down here because of this T-Rex, one of the coolest restaurants around. Anyway, we've got a fun show coming up your way. It is a turntable that a week ago I didn't know existed, but now I do, and we had to get our hands on it. Anyway, you're not gonna want to miss this. Yeah, I was not expecting this whatsoever. So Audio-Technica decided that they needed a turntable in the middle of the range, somewhere between an LP60 and an LP3. And I was like, okay, I'm all about an automatic turntable. So this is priced at $199 for the base model with no Bluetooth out. That's the one I got. Or for $249 if you want the Bluetooth out functionality. I personally don't need that. I don't use Bluetooth out. That being said, this essentially has all the features that the LP60 does, but in a new package. So we're going to take a look at it, compare it to the LP60, and see what it's all about. So one of the arguments about the LP60 series is that you were confined to the non-changeable, non-upgradable Audio-Technica 3600L cartridge, which was their bottom-of-the-line cartridge. This puts a better cartridge, a much better cartridge on there. This is the AT-VM95. And what's cool about this cartridge, came out in 2018 by the way, so it's a newer cartridge, is that it offers a bunch of replaceable styli options depending on whether or not you want a conical, an elliptical, a Shibata, a microlinear, whatever you want on there, there's an option for you. And that's very, very cool. The cartridge is fixed, but the stylus is easily upgradable. It would have been cool if it had a totally, replaceable cartridge, but I guess that's, really what the LP3 is for. And it looks like they're keeping the LP3s around and they're keeping the LP60. So the LP60 will be the entry-level automatic and the LP3 will continue to be the higher-end automatic. And this will fall somewhere in the middle. So consider this sort of an upgrade to the LP60. That being said, LP60 appears to be going nowhere, which is fine because I'm hoping that with the slightly higher price of this, it will push the price and keep the price of the 60 down, which I still think is a fantastic, fantastic turntable. I've got two. That's how much I like them. Okay, so here is the user manual, warranty information. We've got the dust cover wrapped in a foam overwrap there. Interesting. Okay, so let's see here. We've got some audio cables. Let's see exactly what they give you. So it looks like we've got gold-plated RCAs with a grounding wire. We've got a cheap plastic 45 adapter. Probably hinges packed down in there. So let me get this out of the box. Yeah, I totally didn't see this one coming because a week ago today, I had no idea that this was existing, coming, whatnot. I knew that they were about to release something. The rep told me that, but they're not doing like advanced loaner units right now. So not anybody, nobody on YouTube really got an advance of this except for maybe one person I saw. So I was like, well, if you guys are coming up with a new turntable, how are we supposed to review it and have that coincide with your launch date? Because usually that's what happens. And they didn't really have a good answer for that. So I just snagged one on launch day, which was actually launch day was last Friday. And I was able to buy it on Thursday. So I was able to grab it that soon. And then it arrived today. As of the filming of this, it is Wednesday. All right, so we've got a box here. Man, this box is not easy to open. Okay. All right, so yeah, we've got a wall wart, power supply there, and then this piece is interchangeable depending on what region. They'll ship you the connector that's appropriate to your region. I think they've done that on other units as well. So here's the platter and platter mat. Let's look at the platter first. This is die-cast aluminum, which is good. I like a die-cast aluminum. It's, you know, as far as a metal platter goes, it's a lighter weight one, but it's still heavy enough that it's going to have good mass inertia. Belt-driven turntable. The belt's pre-installed on the sub platter there with a ribbon to help us, you know, put that where it's supposed to be. And I'm sure that this will come with a felt platter mat, so you can upgrade that freely. The automatic functionality of this design doesn't require any special platter mat, which I really, really love. As much as I love my Technics SLB5, it's kind of annoying that I have to keep that factory rubber platter mat that's drying out in order for it to work, because it's got little sensors, little either finger placement with little plastic fingers that feel the size of the record, or optical sensors depending on what turntable you have. Same thing with my linear tracker. This doesn't. It requires you to say what size record and what speed, and then it takes it from there. So a nice fluffy felt platter mat, so that's fine. And the rest of the unit is here. And a fabric wrap for the turntable. Big reveal, guys. Are you ready for this? By the way, I can pick it up fairly easily with one hand. It's not weighted, but it doesn't feel like frighteningly lightweight. Cool. Look at that. And that answers a question right off the bat. It's going to be the same internal mechanism that has been in use since the 90s, which is a good system. There's nothing really wrong with it. So essentially what you have here is the same internals as an LP60, essentially, in a new package. So why have they done that? That is the real question. You'll notice, by the way, I got this cool sort of Duracell color looking unit with like this, I don't know if they call it a brass or a copper color offset in the black. I think that looked very, very cool. It's also available in all black or all white. Okay, side by side with the original LP60, LP70. And no huge surprise, the mechanism looks to be almost identical. There are a couple of subtle differences. The most noticeable is the motor placement. Here it's down lower left, there it's upper left. Also, the design of this plate down here is slightly different, but essentially it's the same mechanism. So no huge surprise. They're both going to use the same platter, etc., etc. However, the gimbal looks different. Obviously, the tone arm is way different. And I was surprised, but the controls are noticeably different as well. The original LP60 series and almost every single one of these types of turntables, whether it's a Crosley brand, Audio-Technica brand, Iowa brand, you name it, have the push button on the lower left for the speed select and the start, stop, and cue lever on the lower right. Now, this one does not have anything over here on the lower left. Interesting, so that's different. Over here we have the speed selector switch, which is right here. So this is where they put that button. And then to the right of that we have a stop and start. I do not see a queuing switch because unlike this one that has the queuing switch, this has a queuing lever back there, which we'll look at closer in just a minute. A much better looking, I'll see how it performs, gimbal than the original. This gimbal is very similar to like a suitcase player or an all-in-one. It isn't the same, but it's similar. And so I am seeing upgrades here and there. From a form factor standpoint, there's a difference too. This one is not as deep. This, by the way, this is much smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought this is going to be the size of an LP3. It's significantly smaller than that. However, it's still bigger in certain dimensions than the original, as you can see. So it's not as deep as the original LP60, but it's a little bit wider. And it looks like that width is added over here on the right. So where it's very narrow right there, there's a little bit more width over there. I always like to point out that an LP60 is not much larger than an LP record. Basically 12 inches by 12 inches, a little bit bigger than that. But this one, if I were to do the same thing, you can see it's got a little bit more width to it. But the depth is less. So yeah, there you go. That's the comparison. Sound quality wise, I'm not sure. Hopefully we'll get an upgrade with this. And not just a design and sort of aesthetic upgrade, but hopefully there'll be an actual performance upgrade to this one as well. Another thing I'm noticing is on the original, right back here where you've got that spot for your custom-made Record-ology 45 adapter, there's nothing like that on the new one, like anywhere. There's no place to put a 45 adapter. Kind of annoying. They definitely have the real estate more than ever for it. Okay, so let's have a look around. Here are those 3 buttons in a little bit closer detail here. I like that design. I think it looks slick. It's a nice sort of minimalistic design. I like the fact they incorporate the alternate color into one of the buttons. Pulls it together for sure. Down on the front, we've got the branding LP70X, as well as Audio-Technica front and center, and that same alternate color as a trim line around the plinth. Interesting tone arm choice. This is actually a J-shaped tone arm. It's not a straight tone arm, it's not an S-shaped, it is a J-shaped tone arm. You don't see those too often. In fact, the last one I had, I think, was on the LP7. Plastic clip holding what I assume is an aluminum tone arm here. It's metal from here to here. This head shell, the J piece as it were, seems to be plastic with a built-in lift. We'll look at that closer. And back here, the gimbal as well. Want to get all the packaging off. Very interesting gimbal and lift assembly back there that I want to show you. Definitely not something we've seen before. Like I mentioned before, this does have the VM95 cartridge with interchangeable styli. It comes with a blue one, which is the conical. That's exactly the way I would choose to have it configured right out of the gate for my use anyway. Okay, so here is the gimbal, the back of the tone arm. And no, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. There's no obvious counterweight back here. This is the way it is supposed to look when it's done. So my guess is that they have a weighted piece of metal inside the back here. Color alternate on various aspects and places around here. I think it really looks sharp. Let's see, the gimbal itself feels good and tight. Yep. The sleeve is plastic and the base is primarily plastic as well. Check out this cueing lever right there. Isn't that interesting? For a couple of reasons. I like the fact that it's, pretty hefty. It's metal. It's got a little rubber grip on there, but look how it works. This is new, folks. We haven't seen it. I've never seen this anywhere. So it's got a lift shelf that kind of goes around here over to the other side and a peg leg on top of that lift shelf. And so when you're cueing it up and down, you're lifting up this, which in turn allows the peg leg to be lifted regardless of where it is in its swing, which, considering its automatic functionality, that's a pretty snazzy way to do it. Why not? And if you remember, we were never able to account for the location of the record size selector switch. Well, here it is back here. Isn't that interesting? So this little tab here moves it into position here. It's sort of a clunk when it goes into position. So let's look and see what happens under the hood when you make this adjustment. So that's what's happening under the hood when you do that. All mechanical, by the way. That's totally mechanical. You have no power is needed to do anything we've done so far. One of my favorite things to mention when we're talking about automatic turntables such as this one is the fact that the only source of power for all of the mechanical movements, all of the automatic functionality, is the motor, is the same singular motor that spins the platter. In fact, it's the spinning of the platter, the rotation of the platter, that drives everything else. All of those gears that you saw in there are driven by the rotation of the platter, which is why when you power up an automatic turntable for the first time, it's not uncommon for it to go through a cycle, bring the tone arm out, bring it back and whatnot. And we'll be on the lookout for that because it sort of has to reset. Those internals have a tendency of moving around during shipping. Sort of like your overhead compartment when you're flying. Things have a tendency of shifting during flight, and such is the case with these. But yeah, everything, all the automatic functionality is driven by this. Now you may say, well, that's why automatics aren't good because they're going to, that motor's going to be bogged down. Not true, because as soon as the needle drops, all of those functions disengage. So once the needle drops, the motor is only spinning the platter. So there's no change in performance because of the fact that it's automatic. All right, we're pretty much ready to go. Wait, you know what? We didn't look at the back, we didn't look at the bottom. And I actually meant to do that before I put the platter on. I've got to be careful now that I don't, turn it upright so much that the platter falls off, because there's no C-clip around this. This thing just can lift right off. Okay, so on the back, we've got our phono switch. This is a built-in preamp. You can use an external preamp, or you can use the built-in one, which is what I'll be doing, at least initially here. RCA outputs, grounding post, and a 12-volt power supply. And that's it for the back panel. Being very careful as I tilt this up. We've got rubber feet here that have a bit of a pivot to them, although they're not adjustable from what I can see. Happy to see trim pots for 33 and 45. This is a 2-speed turntable, and that's about it. The base is a plastic tub. The plinth is a plastic material as well. I just need to put that dust cover on. And we've got a low profile, clear dust cover with rubber stops on the front. Same hinges as the LP60. And it has 2 positions. So the down position, obviously. And then that is the up position. It doesn't rotate all the way back like some. I think that's a very good looking turntable. I love that. Love that. We'll be definitely using this myself. So what I recommend before you plug it in for the first time is to raise the tone arm. Make sure that that clip is not in position, because you don't want those gears and things pulling on the tone arm if it's clipped down. And you also don't want the tone arm to drop on the felt mat. That would be bad. So I'm going to plug it in and we'll see what we've got. So it is now plugged in and I don't see anything. So is it literally, wow. Okay, I've never in my life had an automatic turntable that was just, ready to go right out of the box. Okay, maybe not. There it goes. So it's trying to play a 7-inch record, apparently. So that's all expected. Everything looks great. And I didn't mention it earlier, but the fact that this thing has actual RCA outputs instead of just an 1/8-inch jack is a major upgrade. So that allows you to use higher end cables, and that's a very, very good thing. I'm getting set up for the direct feed sound test here, but before we do that, we need to test out a couple things. So we'll test out the speed accuracy, we'll test out the tracking force, all of those good things. Okay, so the VM95 cartridge in the C configuration, which is the blue housing, stylus is the conical version, is a $39 cartridge. So not expensive whatsoever, low cost of ownership, all that good stuff. From a specification standpoint, it's a 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz frequency response. Channel separation is 18 decibels at 1 kilohertz. Tracking force range 1.8 grams, 2.2 grams. We're going to assume it's set to 2, which is the sweet spot. And it is a bonded round shank. So that means that the little chip of diamond is at the end of a piece of metal. This is a 0.6 mil conical, so a little bit smaller than some. The average size for a conical is 0.7. And it's a 1/2-inch mount. In this case, ours is permanently affixed. But the bit of information we were looking at and looking for was the tracking force. So we know that we want 2 grams. I'm sure it's configured properly. Yep, look at that. 2.0 on the dot. Absolutely perfectly calibrated, which is weird considering it looks like there's no counterbalance, but there absolutely is. That is locked and loaded absolutely perfectly from the factory. Anti-skate people, it's going to be a built-in spring-loaded anti-skate. Okay, we'll go ahead and test that. I could hear the comments coming in, so I'm like, you know what? Let's nip this one in the bud. I've had somebody asking me to do a anti-skate test on the U-turn, so this will suffice until I get around to doing that. Got a flat-sided, smooth surface here. This is an acrylic platter mat. If the anti-skate is set properly, then we should be able to put the tone arm in the middle of the disc without it skewing inward or outward. So let's go ahead and do that. And by the way, we haven't even started using any of the automatic functionality. You may be saying to yourself, how is that possible? Well, an automatic turntable functions as a manual one as well. And yes, it is moving. To prove that and to demonstrate that, I'm going to put that beautiful custom-made 45 adapter right there. And if this is set properly, when we drop the stylus, this should be totally neutral and stay right where it's at. It shouldn't go out or in. It should be completely neutral. So lowering the tone arm now and give it a second to drop. And the stylus is now resting on the surface of our disc. And as you can see, it's not pulling inward or outward. That's because it is set completely perfectly. Awesome. I love it. So far, I'm very impressed. Okay, this is a strobe warning, different disc now. We're going to put the Hudson Hi-Fi stroboscopic disc on here so we can test and demonstrate the speed accuracy and consistency. Okay, we're going to be looking at the lower band first. If those lines are stationary, it means that the speed is accurate. If they're moving to the left, as you can see they are, it is a little bit fast, but that isn't so shabby whatsoever. Once the stylus drops on the record, there will be a little bit of drag introduced, which might slow it down a hair. Plus, as this turntable sort of burns in, gets used a little bit, the belts, the lubrication, everything will sort of settle into its normal performance, and that might improve as well. So I'd like to see it a hair fast like that rather than a hair slow, and no, that is not an audible difference. Changing to 45 now, the middle band should follow suit as it is marching just a hair to the left. So very pleased, the speed is dialed in almost perfectly. Man, I just love it when things are going the way they're supposed to. This is excellent. Very excited here. I've got this earmarked for my right-hand turntable. Right now I'm rocking the LP60 Go, or the LP Go, whatever they call it, and looking to upgrade to this. I think this would be a good automatic to have on hand, and kind of perplexed as to why Audio-Technica did this, though. Like, if they're ultimately getting rid of the LP60 line, that does make some sense. However, well, I don't know, because the LP3 still has a place, considering it's got interchangeable head shells and a adjustable counterbalance and a moving coil compatibility and stuff. So that still is a more premium product. However, this is sort of the mid-range between the 60 and the 3 that we didn't know we needed. I do like it. I like the form. It looks like a more substantial turntable. Okay, so we've tested everything. It's totally good. So far, everything is spec'd out very, very nicely. Let's put a record on there and sort of test out the start and stop and return functionality. Okay, we'll do the direct feed sound test in a minute, but let's just sort of test the functionality. So I've got a record on there, and we'll hit the start button to begin with and see what happens. Oh, I just realized I have it set to 7 inches, so it's going to drop the needle right in the middle of the record because it's assuming there's a 7-inch record on there, which there is not. That's okay. Let me move the stylus to the run out and see how the auto return looks. The original LP60 has sort of a herky-jerky return. Okay, motorcycle guy driving down the street, very loud. That return seemed a little swifter and a little smoother than the 60, so that's good. I'm going to switch the record size back here and try that again, hitting the start button and see where it hits in the run in or the lead in. Now these are probably adjustable settings where it touches down and where it returns. You may have to open it up to do that. That would void your warranty. So we want this to be set properly here. Eyeballing it, I can tell that it did drop in the lead in and not on the actual track itself. So everything looks to be set appropriately there. As I said before, an automatic works as a manual. So I don't have to use any of that start and stop. If I don't want to, I can just cue up whatever track I want. The only thing I can't really disable is that auto return without getting under the hood inside there, which again would void the warranty. But everybody likes an auto return. I don't think I've ever met somebody that doesn't want at least an auto return functionality. Motor is silent. The movement is smooth. The functionality and the controls are pretty intuitive. It's a little weird to have that size selector back there. But everything else, I'm really digging it. I'm really, really digging it. Fit and finish is good. It's got a little bit of a hollow, lightweight feel to it. It's not like super high quality, like, man, this is a work of art kind of a feel to it. It's about the same build quality as the 60. So if you like the build quality of the 60, this might be a hair higher end than that. This plastic, this matte finish black plastic looks great, but it's a fingerprint magnet. Just handling it during this video, I've been having to clean that front edge a few times. So it's a fingerprint magnet, which is unfortunate. It looks beautiful. I absolutely love the two-tone look of the unit that I picked out, purchased. And I like what they've done here. I think that this looks snazzy. The only thing we haven't checked out yet is the sound quality, which is pretty important. So coming up next is a sound test. Okay, as I've explained a few times, I have to use a headphone amplifier with this recorder, but this is coming straight out of the unit using the built-in phono preamp. And for music today, we're listening to Enoch Light, but it's not the usual Enoch Light. It is the big band hits of the 30s. This is a new 4-channel quadraphonic recording, new I should say, versus the original 30s recording. So this will be a more contemporary version. It's a very high quality audiophile disc. It should be very good to test with. There's a picture of old Enoch rocking the pipe there as we go. This is PR5049QD because it is quadraphonic. Without any further ado, here is the LP70X direct feed sound test. Surprise to me, it sounds as good as it looks, so I'm gonna give this a 2 thumbs up. I would definitely recommend snagging it. This is a excellent beginner's turntable or even an upgrade turntable depending on where you're coming from, and I myself am going to keep this and use it. I'm excited to give it a deeper and longer listen. We'll do follow-up videos. You'll be seeing more of this turntable for sure. It is being welcomed into the family of Record-ology turntables. And I just want to say thank you to you for watching this show. I've been very much excited about this once I learned that this turntable was coming out. So I thank you for indulging me, and hopefully it's been fun and interesting for you as well. That's the orange bird. I love that guy. It's probably my favorite Disney character. All right, well, dinner was the place is crazy. Imagine a rainforest cafe, but like twice the adrenaline. It's absolute insanity. So a very cool record player. I hope you guys enjoyed this show, first and foremost. But that's going to do it for today, my friends. Happy record hunting, and we'll see you next time.